Welcome to the Canadian Food Podcast, where we explore the foods that made us and all the controversies that come with them. My name is Victoria Grondin, and I am a food writer, chef, and someone who often thinks about chucking her phone into Lake Ontario and walking away from it all.
And I'm Juan Palma. I love to cook, but mainly eat. My love for food is unreal, and I will eat almost anything because to me, it is about the experience, not the flavor. I also make food content on TikTok once in a blue moon when I find the energy, time, and willpower to cook and film for 2 to 3 hours. Today, we'll be covering Canadian pizzas and whether or not we like them.
Absolutely, and that's a big question. We'll be looking and testing out three iconic Canadian pizzas: the Hawaiian, the Windsor style, and the garlic fingers with donair sauce. We'll quickly acknowledge some other Canadian pizzas that unfortunately did not make the cut, and then we'll design our perfect signature pizza. Are you ready?
Yes.
So, before we kick things off, we've got to define what pizza is.
Well, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, pizza is, of course, an Italian dish made of a round, flat base of leavened wheat-based dough, baked with a topping of tomatoes, cheese, and any of various other ingredients, such as meat, anchovies, or olives.
Yeah. Now, of course, that's the origin. And there are classic pizzas out there, such as margarita, pepperoni, but there are also classic pizza making techniques proper to every region of the world, such as Neapolitan pizza versus New York style. Now, people love to fight over which one is the best. Like that's what they'll talk about all day. It's kind of like the same energy as sports where they just cannot get over it and they feel very strongly about it. I think carbs are carbs. That's my hot take. What I like on my end is that while Italian cookery is incredibly traditional and mindful of respecting the source material and staying close to the roots, Canada kind of likes to go off. I think the best example of that is Hawaiian pizza. So, Hawaiian pizza, despite common belief, is a Canadian pizza. It was invented by Sam Panopoulos when he opened a satellite restaurant in Chatham, Ontario in 1962. He was inspired by his experience making Chinese dishes, which often mix sweet and savory flavors. And the name of the dish actually just comes from the brand of canned pineapples they use. It had Hawaiian on it, and he thought, that's good enough.
So, if you break it down, a Hawaiian pizza is a classic pizza with a tomato and mozzarella base, topped off with ham and pineapple, although sometimes bacon will also make an appearance.
Yeah, we've made some today, so let's just give it a try. I just want to give a heads up. I'm a vegetarian, so I made sure to buy vegan ham and vegan pepperoni.
Mhm.
Should you buy those? No. Do I think they'll make good enough substitutes? Sure. So, are you ready to try it?
I am ready, yes.
Okay, I'll make sure to get a bite with both ham and pineapple. Let me.
All right, bottoms up.
Oh, I got excited. So, what do you think?
That's a really good pizza. I love it. I mean, I don't want to reveal anything too quickly, but God, I love Hawaiian pizza. It is one of my favorites. I love pineapple on pizza. I'm so sorry to like half the world out there, but Hawaiian pizza is by far one of my favorites. I would like to also mention um I've loved Hawaiian pizza ever since I was young with ham.
Uh-huh.
Until recently, I have not been able to enjoy Hawaiian pizza with ham because
How come?
I can't stand the flavor of ham. Even though I've still had pizza with ham in it, like like a classic Hawaiian. But if I have the option of not including it, I try not to, and I replace it with
Oh, that's
pepperoni.
interesting. Oh,
Pepperoni and pineapple is actually, which is
wait.
practically the same thing.
That's That's not practically the same thing. Ham
I
is
said
smoky
practically,
and salty, whereas pepperoni is spicy and salty. How? Okay,
which in my
I
opinion
I
makes it
did
better.
not think I was gonna get hot and heavy, but you just said that pepperoni and ham are good substitutes in a Hawaiian pizza. So like, Hawaiian pizza is the most controversial pizza. I don't think it should be.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't need to be. It's just sweet and savory, and it's a little bit of everything. And I think the sort of sweet acidic brininess of the pineapples makes it so that it cuts through all the layers of fat of the cheese and the ham.
It's
To me,
complementary.
Yeah, those flavors make sense. And I don't know, I think it's a good pizza. More people should make it. And my
People
only
should be open
beef
to eat it.
is hmm?
I said more people should be open to eating it. It's
I
just
know, right?
I feel like if you can't enjoy pineapple and ham, bacon, or pepperoni combined on a pizza, like you just need to like I don't know, get a new palate. You know, grow up. Come on, like
I think it's the mental barrier of thinking about putting fruit on a pizza, but it's
yes,
not just any fruit. I wouldn't put apples, I wouldn't put bananas. Like I would put something that is sweet and acidic. Like if you're thinking of sour chicken, like sweet and sour chicken, that would
yes,
have pineapple in it. It's not so crazy. And
right.
in Canada, like I've done a review as one does, of all of Canada's most iconic dishes.
Hmm.
The most common, like the common theme that runs through all of them is a passion for sweet and sour. We'll
Right.
have ketchup chips, which do have sugar in them. We'll have sweet and sour chicken. We'll have ginger beef, and we're obsessed with lemonade. I mean, I'm not saying it's the most sold beverage of all times, but we do love a good lemonade. So, like,
I agree.
Canadians love this type of flavor, and I think pizza like this, although it's very popular in countries like Australia, could have only originated in a country like Canada, which has this passion for sweet and sour. But I'm frustrated that people have a mental barrier that makes them say like, "I will never do this. I absolutely cannot stand."
Yes.
Like, that's wild.
God, I agree. I feel like it might also just be the fact that they maybe it's not the idea of the taste in general. It's again, like you said, it's the fact that it's fruit. You know, I
Yeah.
feel like if somebody were to tell me, "Oh, try this pepperoni pizza with a slice of apple on top of it," you know, I'd be thinking like, well, you know, I guess texture wise and like it's weird. It's just a fruit, but I think it's great. I do think that it sounds so stupid when I say this because I'm thinking about it and I'm about to say it and I'm like
Too late.
I can only imagine some random person just watching this, hearing this podcast, and they're just like, "What is this guy's problem?" I feel like if you can eat a Hawaiian pizza and enjoy it, your palate is so much like it's so advanced in comparison to normal people. Like the ability to go out and enjoy such a mix
A
of flavors.
refined dish.
Literally, yes. It's so weird because I mean tomato, dairy, meat, and then a fruit. It sounds weird, but like
Well, can I complete your hot take?
yes.
Uh, because like I'll go down with you. I have no problem with this. We'll go down Lake Ontario in a sailing accident together. I don't care. But like to me, it's about putting the flavor above your ego. Because sometimes I'll have a big stance about a food, and I'll be like, I'll never do this. It's like odious. I could never in 100,000 years imagine putting this in my mouth. Which is actually something that you and I might experience together when we try the garlic fingers at the end.
Yes.
Because like the sauce is controversial, and there's a part of me that's like, never in 100,000 years would I put this in my mouth. And then I block completely, and I imagine that it's the absolute worst thing in the entire world.
Hmm.
Whereas when you try it, if it's the right proportion of ham to pineapple, it's pretty good.
Right.
Like I think it's just about putting away those mental barriers, kind of like people at a bar. I don't know why in this case I'm just thinking about like straight dudes who are like, I will never have a sex on the beach. Do you know, like, if you put aside the fact that it's pinkish,
Right.
how much alcohol is in a sex on the beach?
Hmm.
If you actually want to get lit and get crazy at a bar and have a good tasty drink in your mouth, that
Hmm.
is what you should go for.
I
I feel
agree.
like Hawaiian pizza gets a bad rep because of people's mental barriers and hung-ups about what
Yes.
food should be,
Hmm.
instead of like people taking the time to consider what it is, which is a delightful snack.
Yes. It's overall it's just fantastic. I think it's
Yeah.
great. It's
There's
comfort food for me, at least.
oh, absolutely.
Oh,
There's one.
actually, I want to add one more thing. I'm so sorry.
No,
Um,
go for it.
yes,
Yeah.
Hawaiian pizza. Uh, because there's there are some pizzas that I've had, Hawaiian pizzas, where the ham, again, not my first option, but I have had it plenty of times, where the ham is sliced or cubed, or like it's done in a different way, where
Yeah.
to me the experience is so different. So I want this on the record. cubed ham should not go on a pizza with pineapple. That is
Wait,
not
really?
the way to go. Yes, I'm so sorry if people out there really enjoy cubed ham on a pizza. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. If it is ham, it has to be a thin square strip kind of, or just like a thin
Okay.
strip of ham,
Yeah.
and it has to be so like so well toasted by the oven or the furnace or wherever you put it,
Oh yeah, crisped
that
up.
like
Yeah.
it has to be crispy, and it just can't be cubes. It cannot be cubes. Even if it's crispy, I've never seen it, but it just can't be cubes. I have a
That's
problem
wild.
with
Actually,
cubes.
I would be on the side where, like, even though I don't, like, I haven't eaten ham in years,
Hmm.
I would be all for that little cube of goodness because it would be this tiny little bit of encapsulated salty brine. And I feel
Sure.
like if you're the lucky person who, goes strategically in the box and
Hmm.
picks that one slice where the tip has both cubed ham and a tiny piece of equal size of pineapple, you
Yeah.
are golden. You have the perfect ratio. I feel like that should be allowed in terms of just like in cooking, we often talk about an even dice on every piece of produce, even though, celery will never have the same shape as a cherry tomato, no matter how you cut it. We also
Right.
still try to have everything fit on the same spoon. I think, in that sense, it's worthy to consider putting on the table cubed ham. That's my hot take. Also,
I,
our producer agrees that cubes are better, but that's
I
okay.
cannot
There's
believe you.
something actually. We might have to reconsider who our producer is. No.
Okay, I would just like to add. Okay, cubes. It's when I say cubes, it's because I'm remembering this one pizza. Okay, I'm remembering this
Talk to
one
us about
specific
the
pizza.
pizza. Yeah.
My mouth is watering because the pizza was good, but it was the cubes that just I couldn't. Like I love the pizza, great, but it was very big cubes of ham, and for
Oh, we're
me
talking a
that
centimeter? 2
no,
centimeters?
I don't know that maybe, but it's not like
Inches?
no, I mean like no, I know what a centimeter is in an inch, but I
I just
mean
want to
like
check.
no, but I mean like because when I picture cubed ham, I picture it like this is I'm over exaggerating here with the size, but
Mm.
it is a big chunk.
Oh, a big boy. Okay.
It's a really big chunk of ham that they placed on the pizza, and it just ruins it for me.
Mm.
If it's
No,
really
that's
tiny little
inconsiderate.
cubes, like crumbled
Yeah.
bacon type of things, sure, fine, that's not a problem. I just can't
Mm.
do the big pieces of ham. But I'm
For me, it
biased.
would
I
be
don't
a
like it.
centimeter square. I would say a centimeter square or like 1.5 centimeter square cube, whatever. That would be golden for me. But there's one thing. There's something called, and like we can talk ham all day, but I've got beef against the pineapple because there's
Mhm.
something called the Hawaiian sheet pizza where they put full round slices of pineapple on it.
Oh God, yeah, don't get
To
me
me,
started.
that feels like I will defend Hawaiian pizza until the day I die if done correctly. And I
Yes.
think that, the cube is certainly a personal preference. I think
Hmm.
that of course it's not wrong, but it might not be right for you. Whereas I think a full slice is wrong, just straight up wrong.
I agree. I agree
'Cause
100%. It also changes the whole experience of Hawaiian pizza because at this point you're just chewing on a big piece of pineapple instead of combining everything together. You know.
absolutely. The ratio is off. You'll never get enough ham to satisfy this. And then if you happen to, which would obviously be a miracle, then your pizza is like soggy from all of this. And then it would
Yes.
interfere with the mozzarella melting. Something about this to me feels wrong. I saw it essentially when I was doing research. I saw a picture of it and I was offended. I was offended they would do that to us. I feel
Uh,
like that's kind of like when they do poutine with like shredded mozzarella, and then they're like
yes.
shredded
My God.
mozzarella is acceptable, and I'm like, mm, you can just I will let you if you say we use shredded mozzarella because we didn't have cheese curds, absolutely, but don't say it's acceptable to do mozzarella. It's kind of like the survivor scenario of making poutine.
Hmm.
It's not that okay, but we
Hmm.
get it. You're in the jungle. There's no cheese curds in Chatham, Ontario. We get it.
I
You know what
agree.
I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. I would like to add on more stuff, but that would be a whole nother story. Probably whenever we do poutine, if we ever do.
Oh, don't worry. We're gonna do poutine. It's very important to me. It's just, uh, to me that's gonna be like my brainchild. where I really
Mm-hmm.
go off. Like if
Mm-hmm.
we're worried about time on this podcast, I think the poutine one is just gonna have to be separate parts, and one of them is just
Yes.
me screaming in the mic at English Canadians for 45 minutes. That's gonna be like the first. That's gonna be like the intro, just me roasting all of English Canada, and then moving on.
It's
But
just
yeah,
I have a lot of opinions on it because, well, I've had the good stuff, the OG stuff here. I've tried
yeah.
it in many different locations, but I've also had poutine over in Florida, like
Oh boy.
in like four different locations in Florida. Understand this, like try to picture this, right? And
I'm
it's
picturing
just it's
Florida already. It's pretty drab.
right, but it's just even when I'm thinking about it, like thinking, picturing the fact that there are four different locations I've gone to in Florida for poutine, like that's wild. But
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think they would hang up to it because it's an affordable food that's easy to make and easy to sell, especially to like party people. So I understand the
yes,
marketing perspective. I will say
hmm
in Toronto, it took me a full year to find a good poutine place,
hmm
and the reason why I found it is I was walking by and on its num 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 poutine. If you see it, it's on Dundas. Please go. Fantastic. They have a sticker on the like the stall's window that says we get a delivery every Wednesday of fresh cheese curds.
yes,
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I searched online, and like, of course, he had won a bunch of prizes, but it
hmm
said that he was an OG Quebecer, and I was like, listen. Sometimes the people got to do it for the people, so I trust
hmm
this man. And now every Thursday, because we don't know when they'll deliver on Wednesday, every Thursday we get poutine from there.
right. That's really smart, actually. That's really good.
So like poutine is really one of those foods that you have to do right. I think with Hawaiian pizza, it's the sort of the same thing. You have to make sure
Yes,
it's canned pineapples. That's in the name of historical accuracy, and
true.
then you have to make sure there's either ham or bacon. You have to make sure there's something salty
Pepperoni or
or
pepperoni.
what?
Pepperoni.
Um. Uh huh. Listen, I know we're in a democracy, but I feel like it's time for me to take over. I feel like people have lost the right to an opinion, and I should just oppress everyone and just say what I feel, and that's now the truth. And I don't
That's
think
okay.
pepperoni. I don't know. Actually, I really want to consider pepperoni. I just feel like it would bring forth a different experience. I will say there is because if we want to consider sweet, sour, and spicy, that's
hmm
absolutely doable.
hmm
There is a guy who makes Windsor style pizza, and he
hmm
mentioned his style of pizza as he makes his own order, and he calls it the Angry Hawaiian. And it is, if I'm not mistaken, I'll make sure to double check and link the source.
hmm
Um, double ham, bacon, pineapple, and jalapenos.
That sounds good.
To me, that sounds bomb, and especially if he does slices the way you say it should be done as per the manuscripts. Well,
I
I
agree.
think that doubling on the ham is not a bad idea, especially
hmm
considering how sweet,
hmm
pineapple is. But yeah.
hmm
So there's when I was researching pineapple pizza, it's obviously one of the most well-known types. And there was a really cool quote from John Green who spoke on a podcast about pineapple, and he was expressing how he felt about Hawaiian pizza and really wrapping it up. And he described it in the 2018 podcast by saying it was a Canadian pizza invented by a Greek immigrant who was inspired by Chinese cuisine to put a South American food on an Italian dish. And I love that quote because Canadian culture is not a monolith, and trying to examine it as one would only have you miss the most relevant parts of the picture. I've tried personally hundreds of times to put Canadian cuisine in a box,
hmm
and it always ended up with me spilling everything over. I think that every dish we have that is iconic has a rich history, and we have to acknowledge everywhere it comes from, no matter how messy it sounds, because it's just the absolute truth of Canadian cooking. Our
Right.
culture is just messy and it comes from everywhere. So yeah.
And that's great. I mean, I like it. I like the culture here. I like, everything that kind of combines culture-wise to just become one big Canadian culture. And
Yeah,
well, I have Canada to thank for Hawaiian pizza, obviously.
It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, Australia's most often ordered pizza. So
Hmm.
people really love it. And it's something we built from putting together, nearly half a dozen cultures and just being like, what comes out of it? And does it taste good? If it tastes good, we love it.
Hmm.
Now, that's for Hawaiian pizza. I think we're going to get a lot of haters on the Twitter, but we ain't getting a Twitter, so that's perfect. So
Right.
if you hate Hawaiian pizza, make sure to tell us why, and then make sure to go try it and send an email to tell us you were wrong,
Yes,
because
maybe
like
try it
we'll be
first and
waiting
then
for that
tell us
email.
why. Exactly.
Yeah. So oh, okay. Please make sure to send us a picture of the pizza you ordered, with you having taken a bite of it
Hmm.
before you come out and say it's horrible. And then if you say it's horrible, sure, but please tell me why, because I'm actually quite curious. Because one could make an argument that the juice in it could compromise the integrity of the mozzarella, so then I would hear you. But make your own argument, make your own case. Now, the second pizza we're going to be exploring today is not as well known, but it is quite wonderful, and that one has a lot of rules that comes with it. So Windsor style pizza emerged from Windsor, Ontario, which is funny enough a town right on the border of Detroit, but just an hour away from Chatham, Ontario, which is where Hawaiian pizza came from.
Well, Windsor style pizza is a medium thin crust with cornmeal at the bottom, then a really nicely seasoned sauce with lots of oregano, galati mozzarella, julienne pepperoni, and canned mushrooms. Not too excited for the canned mushrooms though.
I have feelings too. But this description is really important. When I gave the recipe for you to do, it had a lot of notes because people in Windsor will have variations from restaurant to restaurant, but any faux pas and you're just making another dough puck with sauce on it. You're not making Windsor style pizza. I think the biggest details are it needs to be julienne, pepperoni, and it needs to be canned mushrooms. If it's not canned mushrooms, you're just all of Windsor will be messaging you all of a sudden, and I know it's like 5 people, but that's still a lot of people if you're
Hmm.
just one person with one inbox. Then every producer uses gelati mozz, which was just been confirmed is actually pronounced gelati. But honestly, you can't really find that just about anywhere, and none of us are, in Windsor. So if you were to use regular mods, I'm sure it would be fine. Kind of like
Hmm.
Putin, just say you're on Survivor, and I think they'll let you, go by okay.
Hmm.
Now, the way the pepperoni is cut, which is in julienne thin strips, is unique, but it serves a dual purpose. First, it helps evenly spread the fat and flavor from the pepperoni across the pizza throughout the bake, but it also helps ensure that every bite has just a little bit of meat in it. But perhaps, I think the most equitable topping distribution I've ever heard of. Like, I don't think someone has ever been so considerate about topping distribution in pizza. And
Hmm.
to me, that is the most Canadian thing of all times. To just be like, I want to make sure that in every bite you get a little bit. I love that. It makes me so happy. So today we made some of it as well. You know, mine, the pepperoni is vegan. I'm not saying you should buy that. I'm saying I bought that. So do you want to give it a try?
Yes, yes. Let's go ahead. Bottoms up.
Okay. Oop. Santé. I'm gonna take a second and take another bite, even though I haven't finished this one. I like this.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna take another bite.
We're not allowed to take a third, right?
One bite. Everybody knows the rules. Um, I have some thoughts. I'm gonna take one more. I'm sorry. I need to.
Please express your thoughts. I'm quite curious.
It's a good pizza. I like it. I like it. I'm hoping that I actually made it correctly and that it might taste something around like maybe like this. I would definitely
Hmm.
be really open to trying a like an original version of it, or
Oh yeah.
I guess a professionally made version. I was not too thrilled to eat the canned mushrooms. I was actually
Hmm.
super confused when you said that it had to be canned mushrooms because I was in the store and I was looking
I
at the
made sure
fresh
to
ones
write
and
it.
I was like, "Are you sure?" Because these fresh ones look a lot better, and I don't know what these canned ones will be like. When I opened that can of mushrooms, oh my god, it was like opening a can of
Oh,
worms,
it
slugs.
smells. wild. I
I
opened it as
hated it.
well, and actually I composted the rest of the mushrooms because I could not stand the smell in my house, and I felt really bad about that, but also not that much because it smelled really bad. But so if ever you want to, I think Windsor is not that far from Toronto, and they
Hmm.
have a tour of 8 local restaurants who serve the Windsor pizza. So that is something that can be done. And if you're curious about having the real thing with the gelati mozzarella,
Hmm.
you can have it there. But yeah, I'm perplexed when it comes to my own perception of what a pizza and its toppings should be, because I am not a stan of canned mushrooms. And usually when I get pizza from a place like Pizza or Domino's,
Yes.
they do this fast and furious type of pizza production where the bake might not be as beautiful as if you were in a restaurant that is like, high quality, or not high quality, um I would say a dine-in restaurant that
Hmm.
actually has like waiters and everything. They
Right.
would tend to use a pizza oven and be very mindful of the bake and the quality and everything. And at home, you as would as well be more mindful of the bake.
Hmm.
In a fast food type pizza place, they will often use canned mushrooms, and because the bake is not as good, they'll remain watery and mushy. So I know Pizza, if I'm correct, they use canned mushrooms. It makes a difference. It tastes foul. But I know the opposite as well. Domino's, once again, if I'm not mistaken, they use fresh mushrooms. And
They do.
the we know our
They,
pizza.
I love
The
Domino's. At least I did back in the States. So anything Domino's, I've tried a lot of their ingredients. A lot.
but see, there's a cost to having the fresh mushroom because, first of all, in Windsor, when the pizza style first came out, it wasn't
Hmm.
that widely available. The only way they could get mushrooms was canned, so that's the historical significance behind it.
Hmm.
But the fresh mushrooms, they lose their water so fast because they're cut so thin that
Hmm.
in a fast service type of pizzeria, they will give you something that's shriveled and a little bit almost burnt and kind of sad, and it's concentrated flavor with sort of an unsatisfying texture. Whereas here, we baked it the way you should at home. So we got it with the oven as high as it can go, and then we baked it until it was, bubbly cheese, a nice crust with a little bit of char and leoparding at the bottom.
Hmm.
And in this case, at least for my slice, the mushroom is nicely encapsulated in the mozzarella, and it is thoroughly baked. It's not mushy for sure,
I
but it
agree.
is starting to get a little bit of that char.
Hmm.
Just a little bit of that something of shriveling up and losing the water content. So I think canned mushrooms are banned in my book in my pantry, but I understand their purpose as a pizza topping.
In this
I
pizza,
will let
yes,
them be.
yes. I
Yeah.
don't think. I mean, hey, honestly, I would have canned mushrooms on a pizza again. I don't think it's actually that bad. I did taste them, and I love mushrooms. I'm a huge fan of mushrooms. I've actually been
Oh
wanting
yeah.
to get into mycology for like the longest time.
Hell
I
yeah.
was thinking about
I
even
love mycology.
possibly getting into it in college. Anyways, I love mushrooms, and this was actually pretty good. I didn't really have any complaints. I do remember that you did specify that we had to add a good amount of oregano,
Yeah.
and I think I definitely added a good amount of oregano because the flavor definitely showed. Uh, but everything combined, it's honestly a pretty good pizza. I would have it again, and I really look forward to actually having the real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. I wish the vegan pepperoni I have it was saltier because I
Hmm.
think it would make for the most banger Windsor style vegetarian pizza of all times. I
Hmm.
think if I was to, make it for someone for a party and I was to make it vegetarian, I would actually make it completely unhealthy. I would just go for it and I would basically fry in a pan each pepperoni before
Hmm.
salting it and slicing it. Like it would be the unhealthiest vegetarian pizza of all times, but then you would really get that mouthful of really nice fatty pepperoni,
Hmm.
and that would be super satisfying. So I like this. I like the thought behind the topping distribution, and I now understand that unfortunately for all of us as a society, canned mushrooms do have a time and place because I do love um, mushrooms as well. I love oyster mushrooms, enoki, those little ones that are called beach mushrooms, which I just call
Okay.
beach mushrooms. They're fantastic. And I do so many things with them.
Mhm.
But I never thought I would back the canned version.
Yeah,
I,
I've never either.
I feel like that's incredible character growth on my part. I need to like tell my psychiatrist I had a breakthrough or something. It's
Before
wild.
today, I've never purchased and or eaten canned mushrooms, as far as I'm concerned, because
I was
it's just not
shook.
something I would buy. I always get fresh mushrooms, and again, I love mushrooms. It's just
So
canned.
for this episode, I went to a big grocery store to get all the ingredients, and unfortunately, they had a couple shortages. They were out of the canned mushrooms, and I was like, "Oh God, oh no!" There's not that much in my area. I have to travel quite far. I went to the grocery store closer to my house, which is
Hmm.
super small, and somehow they had canned mushrooms, and I was really surprised. I think there's a market. I don't know where those people are coming from. I don't know what they do with them because I don't think downtown Toronto makes its own pizza. They're like, I have people in my building, and I live in a beautifully bougie building that order delivery for breakfast. This is not a neighborhood that cooks at all.
Hmm.
That's not a thing. And like I understand on the weekend it can happen. They order like 8 a.m. I see an Uber Eats driver coming through
Hmm.
with like Starbucks. That's next level for me.
Yes,
So I don't
yes.
know what they do with the canned mushrooms. I'm actually super curious.
So am I. Honestly, they might even they should we should make a whole Netflix episode about where canned mushrooms go.
Okay, I will sign that contract, but I will negotiate to make sure we don't have to sniff the open can
I
because it
got
smells
anything.
foul.
I just I'm telling you, when I opened that can, I was like, these are slugs.
Foul.
These are not mushrooms. These are slugs. Oh my god.
Like, so to anyone who has had the pleasure of living a life where they didn't have to open a can of canned mushrooms, when you open them, they're a little bit yellow, green, beige. They're
Grayish.
super slippery and completely naked. Like
Hmm.
there's no skin on them or nothing, and they are really shriveled. I guess it's a different type of mushroom or like a different cycle in the growth of the mushroom where it's really small, so to make sure it's like I guess super fresh because I
Hmm.
know the bigger mushrooms get, the more likely they are to spoil. But they look wild. Like they look completely different from the canned version. It's not the
Hmm.
same thing as if you were to get canned corn, peas, or carrots. They look crazy. And then
Yes.
the smell that comes from the can is not fungus. It's fungus with trauma. So that's why I don't have any intention in this lifetime of purchasing canned mushrooms again unless I am asked by Netflix to recreate the Windsor style pizza, and then I will either hire someone to do it for me and pretend I did it,
Yeah.
or I'll request an N95. I'm not doing this again. I just
I I
it's
agree.
a lot.
I'll have to
But
agree on that.
I think if you're someone who enjoys pizza and you're trying all those different types, I highly recommend going to Windsor, taking the drive, and trying one of those local restaurants who makes it and seeing what you think about it. Because I do think the pepperoni distribution is one of the smartest feats of engineering in all of pizza history. That's my hot take. But yeah,
Good
now
take.
we have a third pizza, which arguably isn't a pizza. I'm not sure that it is. I'm still caught in between. And it's garlic fingers specifically with a donair sauce.
Yeah, garlic fingers come from Atlanta, Canada, and they're basically made by taking pizza dough, smothering it in garlic butter, topping it off with cheese and a little parsley or oregano, and then cutting it into long, rectangular strips before dipping it in either red marinara or Nova Scotian donair sauce.
Yeah. Now, donairs are a special comfort food made with spiced ground beef, tomatoes, onions, and the special sauce, all wrapped up inside a steamed pita bread. It's arguably a drunk food to me, but if you've grown up in Atlantic Canada, it's something you'd consider having year round. So, what's in the sauce? Now, that's the part where you have to pause. It's sweetened condensed milk, white vinegar, and garlic powder. Unhinged.
Crazy.
That is wild. So
Weirdest combination.
we really wanted to do right by Atlantic Canada. So we made both the garlic finger and the donair sauce. Are you mentally ready to try it?
I'm not sure. We literally just
I,
got done talking about the Hawaiian pizza combination, and now I'm the one judging this sauce because
I
condensed
know,
milk,
like
white vinegar, that doesn't
so
sound normal.
it's not basically the guy behind the donair, Peter Gamulakos, created the donairs in 1970s, and the sauce was actually made and changed to cater to the Canadian palate because we did not like tzatziki sauce.
Hmm.
That's why he came up with a sort of yogurt sweetened condensed milk style sauce. And the second he made that swap on the menu and swap lamb with beef, from there it became a hit.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
that's pretty smart.
it's like, yeah, it's like tailored to Canadians. Now I'm Canadian, you're Canadian, like fresh Canadian.
By law. Yeah.
Let's see if we like it. I'm very scared. I'm like, honestly,
Am I able to
out
try
of
the
every
garlic finger? Garlic strip?
yeah, let's try.
Let's try it by
Let's try
itself,
to
right?
yeah by itself
Okay.
first because
Okay. All
we
right,
have to
bottoms
work
up.
tomorrow. So bottoms up. It's the perfect food.
What can I say? Good.
So in college, like there are far and few foods from this podcast that hit me so close as garlic fingers, and you're just eating at the same time. I get you. In college, pizza, when I was freshly vegetarian, I got to know them because it went one right up my neighborhood. And in Quebec City, we don't have pizza. In Montreal, we did. And they sell something called cheesy bread, which is basically half a garlic finger pie
Hmm.
smothered in exactly the same ingredients, and then they serve it with marinara. It was $6, which if you're a college kid who's been through a rough day, is a perfect amount to spend. So I think if I went back in the neighborhood, the lady who works at Pizza would recognize me because after a rough day where I hadn't showered in 3 days, I was known for showing up, getting one of them, and just eating it in silence in a very specific corner. Like, that was my food. But see, they served it with marinara. They didn't serve it with the sauce. Do you want
Oh
to try it
no,
with the sauce?
I do not. But for the sake of the podcast,
Listen,
yes.
listen. You said you want to experience food. This is it. This is
Yeah,
our
I
tornado.
know,
You
and
know.
I mean, I made it. I'm here. I'm ready. All right, let
Okay,
let's do it.
try
I
to get
guess.
a good smudge.
Oh,
I'm getting
trust
all
me.
this.
Yes, I'm gonna get a good amount, enough for me to try it. There
Okay.
it is. The snot. God. Okay.
Okay, saute.
Oh, God bless me. Are you kidding me?
What?
Are you kidding me?
What?
That's so good.
It's really good.
So good. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God.
I'm shook. It's really fucking good.
I'm about to cry. Like, are you serious? Oh my God.
It's really.
That is so good.
It's ridiculous. Whew.
I could
Okay,
I
I need
could
to.
down this whole thing. Are you kidding me? I'm, I'm
Oh,
literally crying.
I am obliterating this the second we're done. Oh my god.
Oh my
So
God.
I think we've just been played. I think we just got played. Like hard. This was our Hawaiian pizza moment.
I see why it
Holy
was
shit.
a success. I see
Mhm.
why this sold and why the Greek food didn't sell. No offense to the
So
Greek food, actually. I love Greek food, and I love tzatziki sauce. I would literally down that myself as well.
oh
But
absolutely. I
my
would
God.
chug that. Yeah. So I actually as I was making it and I made sure to not taste it before we got to sitting down and like eating.
Yes.
Although I've tried every other pizza this week, that like the sauce I was really set aside.
Me
What I
too.
realized is that Canada was repeating a pattern of making something sweet and sour.
Hmm.
And that was the same thing that made, Canadian Chinese dishes really popular and that made Hawaiian pizza popular was now extended to a dish that is not made in Ontario. It's all the way in Nova Scotia. And even there, at the other end of the country, we're saying sweet and sour is the way to go. Now, I will say, I think there would be ways to make this a little bit more manageable because, sorry, I'm burping because I just put sweetened condensed milk and vinegar in my mouth. But uh, there's something to be said about the harshness of the white vinegar.
Hmm.
If possible, I would replace it with apple cider vinegar, which is
Hmm.
just as sour but has a little bit of an oomph that
Hmm.
would give it a more approachable flavor and a less, I guess, brutal flavor.
Hmm.
Because you get the sweetness and the creaminess of the condensed milk, and then right away, bam, comes in the garlicky vinegar. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what my mouth experienced just now, and you put it in the most perfect words because I was gonna say the exact same thing. I'm like, first thing that hit me was the sweetness, but then
Yeah.
oh my god, it's just I cannot believe how well that works, especially with
It's
garlic fingers. Like that's I can't. I just can't. I have like no thoughts. This is so insane to me. I cannot believe that this was so good. I'm
I
upset.
know, and like, so like I understand the marinara because it's basically essentially an acidic sauce breaking through the fat, but there's something so successful in acknowledging and respecting that fat on fat just tastes better
Really good.
than, like, yeah, it just tastes better than moderation. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
any successful chef knows that to make something good, yes, salt, fat, acid, heat, but sometimes when the item on the menu is just comfort food, it's fat on fat on fat. It's 17 cheese, mac and cheese. It's 4 cheese mozzarella. It's the crazy double down. It's a little extra drizzle of olive oil before you take out the plate of pasta.
Mhm.
It's just about layering all different types of fats together to create harmony. And I think this dish almost takes it too far and then brings you back in for more with the acidity. And I'm
It's
very down for this.
I really can't believe it. Like I'm in so much shock. I cannot wait to try this, to eat this sauce again after this because oh my god, I'm gonna have a field day with this. This actually made me think a
Yeah.
lot. This made me think a lot um, about previous sauces that I've made before. There's
Mhm.
a sandwich. I make uh,
Ooh.
an eggplant. I don't want to say eggplant parmesan. I make an eggplant sandwich.
Mhm.
I've made it like 3 4 times before. It's a big sandwich. It's a lot of work, but you have to make this one sauce. You have to make like a balsamic vinaigrette kind of.
Mhm.
And in the process of making a balsamic vinaigrette, you have your sweetness and you also have your acidity. So it has things like at least the one that I make. It does have honey. It has vinegar, obviously. It also has some
Oh, hell yeah.
Dijon mustard, and
Mhm.
it got me to thinking. I wonder what that would taste like with sweetened condensed milk instead of using
Ooh.
instead of using like honey or actually I would use the mustard still, but instead of using honey, I'm curious to know
Mhm.
what sweetened condensed milk with the mustard, the vinegar. It's a balsamic vinegar, and I think some other maybe oil. I think it has some oil in there as well. I'm curious to know
Yeah.
what that would taste like on this sandwich because I cannot believe how great this combination works. It is so
Yeah.
good.
It's kind of insane, but actually, so on the topic of vinaigrette, the basic vinaigrette, I used to really like. I don't think I've bought um, vinaigrette in maybe 5 years. And
Hmm.
in culinary school, they teach you the basic. If you want a vinaigrette for one, it would be a full tablespoon of olive oil, and
Hmm.
then a third of that, so a teaspoon of red wine vinegar, and
Yes.
then you can put herbs and spices. I like to put oregano and garlic, and then red pepper flakes. But then make sure to add a hint of sweetness and a hint of salt, and
Hmm.
you have the best vinaigrette of all times every time. But exactly, you could replace two of the elements, which would be the fat and the sweetness, with the sweetened condensed milk. And then you would probably have a delightful creamy vinaigrette. There's actually different versions of the donair sauce, and there's one of them that breaks down this dual element into each of its parts. So you can do it by using unsweetened condensed milk with sugar. So I think here it's just a powerhouse of flavor that
Hmm.
you can then put on the most wonderful, luxurious, buttery pizza and then have something bomb. I think we were played. I honestly, I think we played ourselves because we talked smack about this sauce all week long.
Literally.
I considered not putting it in the episode. We start the episode by making fun of the poor suckers who don't like Hawaiian pizza,
Yes.
and then we immediately get corrected on the donair sauce. Like, what kind of bunch of donkeys we look like?
I think it was even funnier when you sent me the recipe, and at some point in that recipe it said, in the recipe it says something like, whisk all the ingredients to make the sauce, and then set it
Uh-huh.
aside and pray God forgives us. I could not stop laughing at that specific comment. So I just set it aside and pray God forgives us because I kept sipping. I'm like, there's no way this is real. Why am I going to eat this? And now
So, like,
I kind of want to have it with all of my pizza. I'm so curious about this mix.
yeah, because actually, this gave a pretty big yield. So, everything we made today, you can get the recipe on the website, the canadianfoodblog.ca. I'll make sure to add it. And those are the recipes we did because they're more accessible than, asking you for gelati cheese and everything. Those are the standard recipes you can make from anywhere you are in Canada. But yeah, I knew from prior research
Hmm.
that donairs were actually really controversial because there's a large group of people who hate the sauce and think it's absolutely horrendous. I think once again it's a mental block. I don't think they've actually
Yes.
had it, or there's those people who say they're picky eaters and
Hmm.
then you can put mushrooms in their food and they're fine until they notice there's a mushroom and then all of a sudden they
Right.
shrivel up.
Yes.
I think
Exactly.
those people are cowards because
Hmm.
I have people in my family that when they eat mushrooms, they actually physically get sick no matter how well hidden it is. It's like an actual reaction. But the
Right.
people who just say it for the principle of not liking something, I do not respect them.
I
Unless you're
agree.
sick eating mushroom, you're a liar.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, though now I approve of this. I am now a proud believer and a proud defender of donair sauce and garlic fingers. But there's a big question here. Do you think because of its shape and the components, it is a pizza?